Welcome to today's topic. DLB radio show is giving you a topic of powering up your amazing life story. DJ Rami and myself, DJ Mercy. It's March 30th or March 31st, depending on what side of the world you are. And we're bringing you this pre-recorded radio show with a powerful message, powering up your amazing life story. And I will tell you that this has been a 3-year project that I have been working with, and every time I tweak it and every time I see something new. So let me explain a little bit about this project before I give it to Rami and say hello. Powering Up Your Amazing Life Story is a way to honor and bring forth the wholeness of your whole life story without any editing, but appreciating the lows and the highs, the sadness and the joy that we experience through life. So, Rami, any...
Hello, everyone. And I'm very excited about powering up your amazing life story. When Mercy told me about what we're going to do today, I was thrilled. I think it's something that everyone must try.
For sure. Rami, this started, and I'm going to give you a little history, guys, so that you can understand. It just didn't come up with a title, and I just used the title. But a process occurred where I was working with my own inner work. And through a meditation, I was guided to look at a picture that I had placed in my living room, I would say almost a year after I got married, and I had bought my husband and I had bought a house, and my mom very nicely gave me a gift, and that was a wood frame, and in that it had the only picture that we had of me before I came to the United States, and it was in Cuba. I was a year and a half old, and I just took it. It was beautiful. I put it in the living room, and I forgot about that picture until 3 or 4 years ago, when in a meditation they guided me to go and look at that frame, that picture. And as soon as I went and looked at that picture, what an aha I had. I looked at a child that was totally foreign to me. A picture of me standing up like if I was about to perform or I was going to model. And I thought, whoa, that's not the Mercy childhood that I remember. I remember a childhood that is correct. I was very shy, didn't want to stay too out of the circle of where my parents would be. And so that picture brought me into a series of discovery. What had really happened? I was wondering, did I have a lapse in where maybe I have forgotten that I had something that I did not know about my childhood? So I went back into my reverie of remembering my childhood, and I even went to my parents to show the picture, and I asked them, hey, do you see what I see? Like if I was going to perform, where was this going? And they themselves laughed and said, yeah, you look like you were going to model. What was that all about? So they hadn't really remembered that it was a special occasion, or if I did go to do some little show. What they saw was the same thing I was seeing. And I thought, okay, there's something here. And that brought me to an interesting journey of not only honoring my entire life story, which is a love story, but also the wonderful opportunity to see something new that I had not seen. So Rami, have you gone back to your childhood or ever seen a photo album and wondered?
I don't have much photos when I was young, but I do remember a very vivid memory, and it had something to do with cowboy boots. You see, I would always watch Sesame Street in the morning and in the afternoon, and one of my favorite characters was a cowboy. I really liked how the cowboy walked. He had hands on his pants and cowboy boots. And so when my mom came home, I told her, "Mom, I want cowboy boots." And then the next day I'd say the same thing, "Mom, I want cowboy boots." The next day and the next day, cowboy boots, cowboy boots, cowboy boots. Maybe my mom was just so full of cowboy boots, so she went to the market to look for cowboy boots. And when she came home, she said, "Look, I have cowboy boots for you." I said, "Wow." But when she took it out of the bag, they were not cowboy boots, they were rain boots, rubber rain boots. And at first I was shocked, quite disappointed, because I wanted cowboy boots, but I said, why not? So I wore the rain boots, and I started walking around with the swagger and swagger of a cowboy. And then my mom must have seen how much I liked my boots. And one day she came home and she brought home cowboy boots, the real one, the real leather one. Not just one, she brought home two. One was a high cut and the other one was a low cut, and both had zippers, just like a real cowboy. So I put on my boots and started walking around with a swagger, my thumbs in my pocket, and then I thought I was, a real cowboy. So that was one of my best memories of my childhood.
That's so great. We do tend to forget sometimes of a busy life, and it's hard to go back and remember childhood. And I think that's the delicious magic, a key and component that Walt Disney's left us, the ability to go to his parks and re-engage in our child, re-engage in our inner child. So in my case, I know that I enjoy Disney always, but you have a son, and it's a good excuse to go to Disney. But my husband and I just love to go to Disney, even if we have no one to take but ourselves. There's a magic behind that inner child. There's a magic of seeing through the eyes of a child. The joy of experimentation, the joy of the adventure, the joy of the exploration is really amazing through the eyes of a child. And I always tell parents, and especially in the family, when you start the new generation coming up, being parents, their kids and their cousins, and I always encourage them, just enjoy through the eyes of your kids how they see the world, because it gives us a fresh eye in all our worries and stresses that we as adults start putting into our, almost like coats, and we forget the delicious side of the inner child. In my case, when I went to that reverie and I got my picture, and then I asked my parents, and I started like a Detective Columbo from the old series or any other detective from a new series, I started to investigate what was going on here. I would say, for those who know me well, I went into a castle mode, and I started to figure out what was the story behind this moment. What happened that I looked like a little girl ready to explore and perform and be happy with it, to a little girl that was very shy. And interestingly enough, what came out was a story that even though I knew it, I had not made the connection. And so that's why, when I am working with Powering Up Your Amazing Life Story in a workshop setting, in a class setting, or whatever format I had designed, what mostly I receive as testimonials is that aha moment in where the individual is able to connect their story. They sometimes we have the pieces of our history, of our experience, but yet we haven't connected it to the story. We leave them almost like pending pieces, but not completely connected. And in this case, I found out that that explorer, adventurous little girl had a traumatic experience that she can't recall, but she has it in her unconscious mind. And 6 months later, after that picture was taken, my parents decided to leave the island of Cuba because of Fidel Castro. And my father was an individual that was very much into justice and fairness, and he knew he was going to be not in the best position with this new government and was about to be arrested. So he took his family into this voyage with a uncle's boat. And in reality, as I review it, we almost did we would say an exodus today. But in that voyage, the seas was really rough. And I remember my parents always talking about it when we were little, but by then they were always laughing, of the things that happened to them and how they handle it. So I went back to my parents and asked them, I always remember this story that you all talking about, but I never have asked you, what was I doing while you all were hectic in the boat, knowing that they were without a motor for a few hours and my mom was always throwing up? I was wanting to know where I was as a little girl. And they surely said to me, "Oh, Mercy, you were just sitting beside your father so calmly. It was very impressive. You didn't cry, you didn't get hysterical, and the only thing we were always proud of is how well you were able to take the voyage. A voyage that whenever we got to these high waves, the boat would get to these high waves, my mom said the only thing she could see was the pit, the darkness. And they always thought, oops, this is it. This is our last hooray in Earth. So of course, when I'm looking at that picture from that perspective now, I'm realizing, how could I not be shy? At that moment, my inner child, Mercy, the 2-year-old, made a decision. And she made the decision that adventure was not for her anymore, that this was good enough after I survived it, and safety became my number one value. Safety and family. And nothing of exploring and adventure would come over family and safety. And I would say even safety and family, because it was a traumatic experience good enough for me to record, put it into my, I would say, computer programming. And interesting enough, after I look back into my story, I realized every everything that I wanted to do was really adventurous stuff, exploring. I love to be a flight attendant, but that would be exploring and an adventure and leaving my house. And of course, I never completed those kind of things that you desire to be or to explore, because the most strongest value would hold me back and said, no, 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 that's not safe. That's not being with your family. Have you ever had that kind of recalling, Remy?
Well, I must say your story is it's very touching. It's very moving. And I can imagine that children, even if they're only 3 years old, 4 or 5, would be able to absorb what is happening in their environment, in their family, and take in what they see as valuable to their parents. So I just imagine the entire story and how it has shaped your life. And I was thinking about my story in Cowboy Boots, and I realized that if my mother had done otherwise, then I'd be a different person. Like right now, I value uniqueness, I value expression, and I like seeing that in people. I like people being able to express who they are. I also like being headstrong when there's something that I like. And so I remembered, day in and day out, I'd say to my mom, cowboy boots, cowboy boots, cowboy boots. It's the same thing that I would do to this day. And one more thing was to make the best of what I have. When my mom brought home rain boots, that was still, it's not what I wanted, but it was still the best for me at that time. And maybe that's why she really went out to go look for the boots that I really wanted. And in life, now I realize that every time I am grateful for what I have at the moment, more things come my way until one day I have exactly what I want. So I really like this exercise because inner work doesn't become hard and mental. It becomes enjoyable, like what you said, very Disney-like. And the understanding is there. It's easier to see things. It's almost like watching a movie. And you're right. I mean, there's so much power in our life story. I mean, where else will our power come from?
Right.
But from within.
Yeah. So. And I originally, for a long time, it was The Power of Your Amazing Story. I just edited to Powering Up Your Amazing Story because as we go through tweaking, I realize it's not only the power, it's powering it up that I love to do. And in my case, many testimonials, but I always refer to 2 or 3. And one was a person that was already being challenged with end of life. He was already have had cancer, and it was looking to see should he continue fighting or not. Was it his soul ready to leave or not? And so he ended up being one of the first ones to experience this Power of Your Amazing Story. And in that case, we were doing like a class every week, and they had homework, and he ended up going back into his photo album so that he could present his life to the class at the end of the class. And interestingly, he told me that he even told his kids to do the same exercise so that they could understand, appreciate, and honor their life. Because when he just went back to his album to pick some pictures to talk about his life, as I had done myself and created a 4-minute picture, a movie, he had found out that what he had not honored was his mom's constant taking him to church when he was little, and that he had grouchily go and went to church was the key for him to survive his experience in Vietnam. And that it was that faith that he had grouchily been taught that hold him steady to endure the trauma experience of Vietnam when he came back. And by the end of he looking at albums, he realized he had very good friends that were still alive, that were still in the city, and they hadn't seen each other for years, just because of routines that we would create. So by the end of the class, he not only reconnected with friends that were in the city, he told me he had a new zest for life. And what he did for his last few years, because he just passed away a few months ago, was to enjoy life. He went traveling, he went everywhere without thinking of, oh my God, I have cancer. And at the end of his journey, I talked to him, and he was such a peaceful man. He just said, you know, Mercy, I'm so thankful for being able to do that workshop, because I am now very knowledgeable that my soul is ready, that I don't have any more questions. And that's a very powerful one. This is the only one I have where someone did that kind of journey. But just like him, I've had others who have had a aha moment in realizing, oh my God, that little girl hopes and dreams of becoming what she wanted to become is me already. I was able to achieve it. And so they power up their amazing life story because you're able to do that connection. That connection that says, you know, boy, I did do what I wanted to do. And boy, I know why I did the things that I did, instead of regretting or feeling that you have not accomplished something. And I assure you, this La La Land movie that just came in last year or 2 months ago, when I went to see it, my little girl was jumping because I really thought it was not a movie I would care for. I'm not too much into musical. But by the end of the movie, it was powering up your amazing life story, knowing that life is just about choices. And the choices bring you to an experience, and that experience brings you to making other choices. And if you can connect them and honor them, you're going to be just powering up that story beyond what you can even imagine. Rami?
Well, just looking at your story and the story of your friend and then my story, I realized that we could uncover hidden talents, like in your case. And then in the case of your friend, his life story was also where his healing came from. And then my story only helps affirm the things that I do. And I can see so many possibilities if we only could spend time and just think about our life, what we've been through, and looking at it a second time with fresh new eyes. So I really like powering up your amazing life story. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the exercise.
I would suggest to anyone, there are several ways you can do this. One is if you have photo albums, to just go through your photo albums. And then if you can really go to the whole experience, I would say, imagine that you're just picking up the pictures that call you. Because if you have photo albums, you may have too many pictures. And so just take whatever calls you. And out of those pictures, create a movie, create a theme, if I would give a theme to this, what would it be? And this is what I did. At the same time this was happening, I had just gotten a new Mac computer, laptop, and I realized I had a way to do a movie. So I'm thinking, oh, interesting. And I just put in whatever pictures I had in my file and created a 4-minute movie. And that became the movie that I present in the workshop. But you can do it in any other fashion. Normally, if you have photo albums, it's an easier way to look back and then create a no more than 4-minute movie or whatever you want to present your story to be. The other is by just recalling memory, the joyful memories that your inner child and your memory will bring to you that you may have forgotten. I always tell those who participate in these workshops that you have to imagine the truth is that you are creating a movie. Every time you're in this lifetimes in Earth, you're creating a movie. And so you are the script writer, you are the director, you're the producer, and you have total control of your movie. Your choices, bad or good, are part of an impactful and worthwhile watching of a movie, right? We don't remember movies that are not impactful. By comedy or by drama, we remember movies. We remember events. And so if you can imagine that when you were writing your script and you went to put it into a film, meaning you made it an action, you made a decision to put it in practice, what you just wrote, you will realize, as a director does, that the scene as is written is not as able to be filmed as you thought so. And you have to edit. You have to say, oh my God, no, that window is not good. Or, ooh, that garden doesn't look as good as I thought it would be. And so you start editing and making decisions from the actual moment that the action is occurring. And so you just make choices again. But a lot of times what you do is you create a little note beside the script that says, director's lighting not good, we change these words, we change this scene to this scene. And then when the movie is completed, the editor, which is the producer and the editor group, will start looking at the movie and figuring out how to best put the experiences in the scenes. And at that time, it may change. The scene that was going to be maybe at the middle of the movie becomes the end of the movie or the beginning of the movie. So there is another editing and choosing happening, which happens to us. And so when we start being able to understand that even though we thought we had no control, when we start understanding that at the core of all our decisions, we made the best decision that we ever could make for that moment with the information you had at that moment, then we start honoring the choices that we made. And as soon as we honor the choices we make, guess what? Our picture starts to heal. Our story starts to be more whole. And the beauty of honoring our amazing life story is that if we believe that we are one with God, our story is God's story. And at the end, when we honor our story, we are honoring God's story. What a powerful healing that is. So I would invite you all to do whatever exercise that allows you to go back and start connecting those pieces of your life and make it the most amazing life story movie that you can make it. Don't you think, Rami?
That's amazing. That is, it's really a different take on doing inner work. And I appreciate now that I can be the director, the actor. I can change scenes. I can really come up with the story that I want. Amazing.
And think about it, I may get someone that would say, and I would say it at some time in my life, but I have no other choice, I have to pay my rent, I have to maintain this job that I don't care. And I would say, well, like an actor, they don't have a choice on the script at that moment until they can convince the writers or the director that their idea would be better. The same thing with ourselves, even if you think you're in a place that you have no control, you can switch and reframe your picture. You can say, well, this is temporary. And as soon as I can see the opportunity for me to shift or to do something different, I'll be vigilant looking for the opportunities and still be grateful for the ability to be able to perform and be here experiencing life. Isn't that a cool way of looking at your life?
I'm going to go through my life story soon after. It's been a wonderful Divine Love Bliss radio show with you, Mercy. One of the most fun. So we should do more exercises next time.
Yeah, we'll do something else attached to this Powering Your Amazing Life story, or another exercise that makes us go back into really the tools that we already have inside of us in a joyful way. Okay, Rami, I think we have done for our radio show. As always, we would love to continue talking here, but then it will be too lengthy, and people will get tired of us, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Until our next show.
Thank you, guys. I hope you are powering up your amazing life story with these little exercises that I share with you. And until the next time, enjoy.